also.
So, Lia, the stage is all yours.
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Lia Tsur. I'm very happy and honored to be a part of this meetup. It's always a pleasure to speak about new methods of how to manage the cyber risk, or in other words, the next generation of cyber risk management. I will do my best to speak very briefly in order to leave enough time to answer questions. Let's see that it's working. Okay, just a second. Yeah, we have a delay here. Okay. So I want us to go back to the foundations, back to the basics, to remind ourselves as a risk managers, as a cyber defenders, that what we want to achieve here. We want to be prepared for cyber attack, right? So in order to do that, we need to get into the attacker's mind, tracking their steps, understanding how they act and how they think, or in other words, in order to catch a thief, you need to think like one. And what do I mean when I say that we need to track the attacker's steps and get into the attacker's mind? We're all familiar with the concept that cyber contains people, technology, and processes. But what do we mean when we use the term processes? In most cases, in most organizations, the cyber defenders use the term processes as to technological processes. But is this the case? And what about the business processes? Are the technological processes the only processes out there in the attack chain? What about the workflow which humans, I mean the employees, go by? Not the machine workflow, not the network architect workflow, not the technological activity, but human activity among themselves, between them and their clients, suppliers, management, and so on. Let me tell you, cyber criminals recruit former employees, former business experts from the target business organizations they are attacking. The business processes are an integral part of cyber attack chain. We therefore need to widen our vision towards new cyber risk methods, new cyber defense methods within the organization. We want to find the vulnerabilities in the business processes. I have a hard time with the slides. We want to find the vulnerabilities in the business processes, in the business chain. We need to hypothetically dress up as an attacker and get into their mind and think. When the attacker, when the attacker gets inside the organization network, what will they do? How can they steal the money or the data or delete some of the data and so on? Remember, nowadays we don't manage the cyber risk as a prevention state of mind, but we manage it as a fact. That it's only a matter of time until our organization will experience an attack, and we want to be prepared for it. When you track your imaginary attacker, it enables you to identify the vulnerable spots, the ways and the steps that the attacker will take advantage of, especially if there aren't any controls in their way, whether they are online controls or introspective controls. And we always need to keep in our minds that attackers also know how to delete the controls of the trail. When doing a business penetration test, we ask ourselves, where can I add controls that the attackers can reach or find them? Sometimes I add controls that involve human activity and not only systems, like picking up the phone and asking the user if they were the ones who performed the transaction. We need to ask ourselves what could be done in order to mitigate the gaps. Sometimes we change the workflow, sometimes we add controls, and there are a lot of additional creative and unique solutions to implement. In addition, those business controls can give us a wider view of what's going on during a cyber attack. By setting anomaly controls, we reflect suspicious activity that someone is doing something exceeding the normal behavior, whether it's the employee behavior or third-party behavior like client, supplier, and so on. Those anomaly controls enables us to see more clearly where the attacker had been in the network and what they had done. This precious information is crucial during crisis management. And after this long, it's like a game here. Just a second. Yeah.
Just be gentle. Just be gentle. It's taking.
Yeah, and I'm a woman. After this long intro of the business penetration test, I'm sure you're all anxious to hear about my personal background and experience. So I'm Lia Tsur. I'm the CEO of LT RISKMGMT, a boutique consulting firm which specializes in operational risk management, such as BCP, business continuity plan, and fraud and embezzlement prevention, and of course, cybersecurity in the business processes. I used to work at one of the biggest Israeli banking group, RISKMGMT, as the head of fraud and embezzlement prevention and cyber risk manager in the business processes. And nowadays, I'm a lecturer in a number of Israeli academic institutions. After the founding event of the Bangladesh Central Bank attack, where the attacker almost stole $1 billion, we realized in the bank that focusing only on the technology dimension is no longer enough. We wanted to see what's going on in the business processes. For example, is there currently any user who is able to independently wire an unlimited amount of money or a very large sum of money? And if not, could two employees do that, an unlimited transaction? Maybe we might be better off stopping a transaction under certain conditions. And now listen to this. This is a very important question. Can a technological person, a cyber expert, determine what those conditions will be? Unfortunately, the answer to the last question is apparently not. And listen to this. The technological people have a hard time communicating with the business people, which is exactly where LT RISKMGMT comes in. Yeah, no, almost. I want to continue by presenting an example of BPT deep dive analysis. In this diagram, you can see an analysis of one of the call center business process. And more exactly, bank call center process, where a client wants to wire his money. On the diagram, you can see how the analysis refers to both the business dimension as well as to the technological dimension. That is a holistic view. It is essential for the process to be handled end to end. And in our case, the process begins with the client's idea that he needs to wire some money, and it ends when the money leaves the bank systems. Now, when we start to analyze the process, the workflow, we take it step by step. What are the channels? We ask ourselves, what are the channels that the client has in order to wire the money? For example, is there only a call center representative, or is there IVR system that the client can click on some buttons and perform the transaction? And in each and every step, we map the systems in the technological dimension and the employee's workflow in the business dimension. In the technological dimension, we ask questions such as, it's like the most difficult thing. Yeah, we ask questions in the technological dimension, like the security systems are installed, implemented, like firewall, NAC, IPS, VLAN, and so on. Does the organization have SDLC process? Is there any DLP installed? What is the network topology and configuration? Are there monitoring detection systems for privileged users? Are there a dedicated security system like SIEM? Is there any security operations center and alerts there? And in the business dimension, we ask questions such as what access level is allowed to the employee or to the IT team, and what can be done by the employee, and self-execution versus manager approval, and what is the maximum amount that the employee can execute, and a lot of the additional questions that focusing on the business dimension. And then we look for back office and control units. We want to verify where they will notice any suspicious activity. Now we need to split our tests into two separate tests. One, checking whether or not there are any actual controls that are relevant, and two, checking the controller's awareness, because having a relevant control won't help us if the employee who checks it doesn't know to whom they need to report, and that that this action, this suspicious activity, could actually be a hint of a cyber attack. I personally like to imagine the business process as a pipeline. After analyzing all the vulnerable spots and gaps, we now can recommend effective controls, and especially where they should be placed in the pipeline. So it was very briefly. I want to thank you all for listening. Yeah. I hope it was interesting and instructive, and you are welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn, where I publish articles and also share professional data. And now I'll be happy to answer your questions. It was shorter than I planned.
So, no, that's okay. You know, I heard, Leah, that I actually read an article regarding the mindset of attacker that you talked about. And one of the scenario was try to understand the business logic or the ROI of a ransomware. So for example, from an investor point of view, who's investing $200, he can actually reach out $1 million after 1 year. Yeah. If he's investing like with people that will write him ransomware, through people that will send the ransomware via emails, trying to attack organizations or individuals. But eventually, they actually published that after 1 year, he will reach $1 million. So from investing 200 into earning 1 million, you know, that's a business case, and this is an ROI, and we need to think like that.
It's a very good business, you know, to be attacker. The ROI is very high, and of course, but you need to be a criminal for this. So it's another thing. Money is not the only thing in life. But yes, but in the sophisticated attackers, not a simple ransomware. And I personally consult to very big financial institutions or institutions from other sectors. So they are prepared for very sophisticated attack that the attackers get inside the network and learn the business processes and know which user does what, and if there is a need to 2 users or 3 users, and which user can wire, I don't know, like $1 million, and which user can wire $100 million, and so on and so on. And they really use the business experts in the business application. Like if we talk about dollars, so the Swift application, the Swift system. And also it's like a common business processes in all the world. How you wire money, it doesn't matter if it's a small bank in Israel or HSBC in London. It's the same, it's more or less the same general process, but there is a distinction between the banks. But the cyber attacker, if it doesn't familiar with the bank process, so you won't know how to do it. You don't know which are how many units there are that they need to check, and where the transaction stops and being checked. So all this information is very important to the cyber attack, to the attack chain, to performing the attack. And when we start to check, when I was employed in the bank, started to check, we realized there are many vulnerabilities and many gaps, and that it's not enough only to protect the perimeter from getting, because we realized that someone will succeed getting into our network. This is our like basic understanding. And from here, we need to see what needs to be done in order to detect it and prevent stealing a lot of money, maybe, most of the money, for example.
Mm-hmm. Did you notice in your work with the biggest institution, do you actually always feel that the human factor or humans are the weakest link, or there are also some processes or business processes that are also weak and can be protected, as you mentioned, like another chain or another cycle of security? That will protect eventually from getting a breach done?
I think the process is the most important because even though there will be like not so sophisticated employees that checks or operate the process, if you have a very strong and good process with outside controls, I think eventually it will be good. But otherwise, a very smart people with a bad process. So the whole picture is that you are in a vulnerable situation.
Yeah. So you are saying it's human factor and human, but also the process might be a weakest link in the chain. So not just the human. Did you see?
I want to give you an example.
Please give an example. Yes, that will be great.
I'm talking now referring to a process that wire securities out of financial institution. Okay, securities, and it's like it's earth money. It's like money. Okay, it's the same. And I found now when I did the BPT, I found a process that the employee just write an email to the counterparty outside of Israel. Write an email, please transfer, I don't know, 1 million in the name of the security to my counterparty, and they're just via email. So you all know how easy it's to write an email and to be like identified as an employee. So the process here are very problematic.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so of course there are things that should be done in order to protect the process, and of course that should be taken into consideration when you are doing a very sensitive business process, such as approving a loan or performing a transaction. Of course. Guys, if you have any questions, please write them down in the chat to Lia. If you have any questions, please write them down.
Only guys out there, Lia? You said guys. Only guys out there?
No
ladies.
Also females. I can check via the names, but there is more. There is Ella and other people, and of course
ladies and gentlemen.
So ladies and gentlemen, so please write your questions to Lia in the meeting chat. If not, I would like to say, Lia, thank you very much for your lecture. It was very understandable from business perspective, because we are always as a security professional seeing in our own eyes from the technical perspective, but in the end it's business, and if there is no business, there is no security. As Shiran said, not just enablers, but actually going with the business and protecting the business. So thank you very much for your lecture. It was great, guys. If you have any question, we will leave some time in the end of the meetup. But thank you very much, Lia. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.